Missed by 8 Inches by Lionel D'Souza is a saga of two friends from a remote Indian town, whose journey leads them to manage U.S. Army facilities in a war zone. The core of the narrative is the tragic demise of one friend and the wrongful accusation of the other for leading him to his death. More than a story of loss and injustice, the book is a testament to the unyielding strength of their friendship, detailing their solidarity, shared laughter, and mutual support amid danger. It is a tribute to the unsung civilian contractors who work defenseless in war zones, sacrificing their lives, and whose stories of courage and sacrifice are often untold. Readers will journey with the two friends, witnessing the strength of their bond and the weight of their sacrifices. Please watch the previous chapters to help better understand Chapter 13. We are now moving to Chapter 13, titled First Christmas in India, from Missed by 8 Inches, authored by Lionel D'Souza. In October 2010, Neil informed me that I could take my Christmas vacation if I wished. I was delighted at the prospect of celebrating Christmas with my family, thanks to Neil's offer. Neil himself was facing personal challenges. He had become estranged from his Filipino wife, with whom he had significant property investments in the Philippines, all registered in her name. Their marriage had hit a rough patch, marked by his wife's unusual behavior and their subsequent marital issues. With all this in mind, Neil had no intention of spending Christmas in the Philippines. As I inquired about his well-being, and he shook his head, indicating that things were not all right. Neil shared that his entire savings were tied up in the Philippines, and he was now engaged in legal proceedings for a settlement. He also expressed his anguish over being unable to see or speak to his 5-year-old daughter, as his wife was preventing any contact. This revelation added a somber tone to our conversation. Neil emphasized the need for me to arrange for a reliable backup since Andrew was scheduled to leave in December, and he wanted to ensure a strong support system was in place. I had a colleague from Canada, Oliver, who was well suited to be my backup. I invited Oliver for a meeting and inquired if he could manage the operations during my Christmas vacation. Oliver responded positively and was eager to take on the role. I informed Oliver that he would shadow me for the next 2 weeks to observe and learn through on-the-job training, similar to the training I provided Andrew when he joined. Oliver had been working with me for the past 4 years, demonstrating a responsive and diligent approach to assigned tasks. His reporting was meticulous, and his work was consistently excellent, free of any complaints. The only drawback was Oliver's handwriting, which was quite illegible, to the point where it might challenge even divine interpretation. Oliver began his on-the-job training, and despite his considerable size of 120 kilograms, he was committed to the process. Our routine involved extensive walking across the base, which he found exhausting, often needing breaks. I would jest that he might lose some weight by the time I returned from vacation, to which he humorously retorted that he might not survive the walking regimen. Our morning started with a thorough inspection of the base perimeter for any damage and general upkeep, followed by a complete tour of the base. Depending on the situation, we would either use the truck or walk from one point to another. For 40 days, I waived my weekly off in anticipation of the Christmas holiday. During this period, Oliver adeptly learned the ropes and began to oversee the base operations autonomously. Despite the occasional setbacks and fluctuations, he was commended for his resilience and forward momentum. One memorable oversight involved a sugar order. Due to his unique way of writing the number 9 as an order for 900 was misinterpreted as 100, leading to an excessive sugar supply. While Oliver had a few more such slips, they were not taken to heart, considering the site's need for a backup and his status as the sole qualified individual. By the time my departure approached, Oliver was thoroughly trained. Andrew had already left the base for India. On December 15, 2010, I embarked on an Air Force cargo flight to Egypt, and from there, I continued my journey to Abu Dhabi. The following day, December 16, 2010, I arrived in Abu Dhabi and reunited with my family. We had planned a private holiday in Pondicherry, away from both our families. A resort in Aéroville was our chosen retreat from December 24th to 30th, and we were excited for a Christmas just to ourselves. 3 days after my arrival in Abu Dhabi, we commenced our trip to India. Our first stop was Bangalore, where we had a house and a car, and from there, we decided to drive down to Pondicherry. After a brief respite in Bangalore spanning a couple of days, we commenced our nocturnal voyage from Bangalore to Pondicherry on the 23rd. The journey was marked by a delightful and enjoyable drive. Adapting back to the driving regulations upon returning from the Gulf can be somewhat bewildering, with the switch between left-hand and right-hand traffic, coupled with the steering wheel's altered placement. Nonetheless, we triumphantly reached Pondicherry on the morning of the 24th and eagerly plunged into the joyous celebrations of our holiday. Throughout the daytime, our leisure was characterized by the simple pleasures of beer and the beach, while the evenings were reserved for unwinding at the resort. However, after 2 days, a sense of monotony began to set in, prompting us to embark on a new adventure to Valenkanni for a couple of days. Despite having settled our hotel bill in Pondicherry in full, we opted to retain our room and simply take a 2-day excursion to Valenkanni. We arrived there on the morning of the 27th, checked into a hotel, and visited the church where we were graced with blessings from the Mother. Following our spiritual visit, we returned to Pondicherry on the 28th. On the 29th, the evening air was filled with the rustle of a brisk wind, accompanied by a gentle drizzle, which led us to stay indoors rather than venture out. Late into the night, during our dinner at the hotel, we were informed of an impending cyclone, named Cyclone Thane. Despite the concern this news brought, I reassured my wife with a reminder of my experience living in a war zone, suggesting that the cyclone was not as daunting. Nevertheless, my wife's worry remained unabated. We were accommodated in the northwest corner room on the first floor of the resort, which boasted a 2-sided glass wall offering an expansive view of Aéroville's outskirts. The resort was impeccably maintained and adorned with beautiful decorations. The interiors exuded luxury, and the culinary offerings were exceptional. On the morning of the 30th, the rainfall intensified, transforming into a relentless downpour that confined us within the hotel premises. The authorities took precautionary measures by closing roads. The afternoon atmosphere remained charged with tension as darkness descended prematurely at 1,500 hours. Drawing upon my experience in Afghanistan, I estimated the wind speed to be approximately 70 to 80 kilometers per hour. The heavy rain reduced visibility to virtually zero. My phone rang amidst the storm's crescendo, and on the other end was Andrew, his voice tinged with urgency. Amidst the howling wind, I could just discern his words. "Surge called in Kandahar, and we need to go immediately." It was an unwritten rule that a surge call demanded full attendance, leave statuses notwithstanding. I inquired about the timing, and through the crackling line, Andrew's response came, January 2nd. The escalating wind velocity was wreaking havoc on the network, making our conversation a battle against the elements. I attempted to convey my predicament, uncertain if my message had been received. The call concluded with a commitment from my side: I will do my best to get out of Pondicherry and travel. Complicating matters further, we had our flight to Mangalore scheduled for the following day, adding another layer of urgency to the situation. I shared the details of the call with my wife, who, despite the circumstances, offered her unwavering support. The pressing question that loomed over us was the feasibility of travel amidst the cyclone's wrath. As the clock struck 2,300 hours, the wind reached its zenith, and curiosity led me to the balcony through the glass wall. The force of the gale was so strong, I could sense it attempting to sweep me off my feet, and I estimated the velocity to be between 100 to 120 kilometers per hour. Retreating indoors, I conveyed to my wife the severity of the storm, suggesting we should attempt to rest. It was at that moment the resort's power failed, plunging us into darkness. The ferocity of the wind rendered any attempt to reach the reception for candles akin to a perilous venture, one that could equate to risking one's life. In the deep of the night, a sudden thunderous crash shattered the silence, akin to the sound of a colossal pane of glass fracturing. Indeed, it was the glass wall of our room that had succumbed to the cyclone's fury, allowing the tempestuous wind and rain to surge in with unbridled force. The four of us found ourselves at the mercy of the cyclone, with no barrier to shield us and no possibility of escape. Anticipating the inevitable breach of the second glass wall, we acted swiftly. We maneuvered the bed into a vertical position, using it as a makeshift barricade. As we huddled behind it, the remaining glass wall gave way. The wind, now a palpable force, swept through the room, though we sought refuge in the corner where two walls met. My wife, with quick thinking, draped the children in bedsheets to preserve their warmth. The gale hurled an array of objects into our room: bicycles, tree branches, garments, and various household items. With no alternative, we remained composed behind our improvised shelter, the vertical bed offering a semblance of protection in the chaos. I imagine my wife might have been reflecting on the decision to take leave during Christmas, perhaps with a fleeting thought of Neil's choice to work through the holiday. In the back of my mind, the urgency of the surge call loomed, stirring concerns about our return. I could sense that my wife shared this apprehension. As the clock neared 0100 hours, the winds abated, casting an eerie calm. The light that followed seemed to signal a respite, but my experiences in Afghanistan had taught me otherwise. I gently grasped my wife's hand, offering a quiet explanation. We're in the eye of the cyclone, directly in its path. We must brace ourselves for another 4 to 5 hours of this ordeal. Her gaze met mine, a mix of worry and resolve, and I reassured her, "Stay calm, we need to remain here. Venturing out is too dangerous, and we're unaware of the conditions beyond these walls." The deceptive tranquility under the eye of the cyclone was unsettling, with daylight-like brightness and a significant drop in wind speed, yet the silence was foreboding. After a brief interlude of light and a deceptive calm, the darkness returned, and with it, the wind's fury escalated once more. This was the aftermath of the cyclone we were now compelled to confront. Based on my past experiences, I gauged the wind's velocity to exceed 120 kilometers per hour. An array of debris, trees, pots, plants, branches, cooking utensils, footwear, and more, was hurled into our room, threatening to uproot us from our shelter. I anchored myself steadfastly, one hand gripping the bed, the other braced against the wall, ensuring our makeshift barrier would not be swept away. As dawn approached around 0500 hours, the wind's intensity waned, giving way to overcast skies and a steady rain. Seizing this moment of respite, I proposed to my wife that I should assess the surroundings. Despite her initial hesitation, I persuaded her of the necessity to vacate our current refuge. Emerging from our makeshift sanctuary, the devastation within the room was palpable. As I approached the gaping void where the wall once stood, I noticed hotel staff positioning a ladder against the breach, having believed we were swept away by the storm. The passage outside was partially collapsed, rendering it inaccessible. I steadied the ladder as the hotel manager ascended into our ravaged room. My immediate concern was for the safety of others, but he, in turn, inquired about the well-being of my family and me. By then, my wife had joined me, while our children remained sheltered behind the bed. The manager expressed his relief, having feared the worst, and urged us to relocate to another room. We descended the wooden ladder, noting the absence of our clothes and suitcases, all claimed by the cyclone. Fortunately, I had secured my laptop bag behind the bed, ensuring our passports and documents were safe. Upon exiting the room, the absence of power was evident as the generators had ceased operation. Stepping outside, I surveyed the extensive damage, and to my dismay, a colossal tree had collapsed beside my car. The tree's removal was necessary for departure, yet further observation revealed that the roads of Arrowville were impassable, littered with fallen trees and debris. My cell phone, drained of battery, could not be recharged due to the power failure. Amidst this chaos, a singular thought persisted: I must depart, as the surge call beckons me back to the base. The urgency to return to my duties weighed heavily, even as the aftermath of the cyclone presented formidable obstacles. Utilizing the power reserve of my laptop, I managed to charge my cell phone, yet the lack of network connectivity remained an issue. The Pondicherry government acted swiftly, and by 1500 hours, they dispatched JCB machines to clear the debris-strewn roads. With a sense of urgency, I persuaded my wife to return to Bangalore, as my departure was imminent. My restlessness was palpable, and my wife, understanding the gravity of the situation, acquiesced. The journey from Pondicherry to Bangalore was somber, with the devastation around us painting a bleak picture. Many had lost their homes, and others were left without a roof over their heads. The drive back was a stark reminder of the cyclone's wrath, and my Christmas was far from the festive celebration I had anticipated. End of Chapter 13. Subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon for more updates on the next chapters. Thank you for listening and subscribing.